I had a bit of a wild phase in college. I came from a conservative family in the middle of nowhere, and when I joined a sorority, I kind of got into the party scene. Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, going to go over a story titled, "My fiance is considering breaking up with me after learning about my S-word history, and I don't know what to do." And a big shout out to Marcus for sending me this story. And guys, this story is yet another classic example about a gal who's all set to be married. She is 26 and her guy is 29. And lo and behold, one day, not too far from their wedding, he finds out in the worst possible way that not only does she have quite the past, very adventurous, if you will, during her college days, but also she engaged in a lot of activities that she won't do with him. How many times have you heard that one? And understandably, this guy's pretty upset, wondering, who is this girl? I don't know her. She's been lying to me. She's done things not only with individuals, but multiple individuals at the same time, which you'll hear more about, and engaging in certain activities, graphic ones, that she won't do with me. And so he's not quite sure whether he wants to marry her. And of course, she's losing her freaking mind. And once again, this proves why both parties, men and women, whatever relationship they're in, both parties, you must be upfront and honest with the person you start dating, get involved with when you talk about each other's past. Not only truthfully responding to their questions about your past, but also volunteering it so they know. In other words, you're going to see in this story that a lot of times she's going to make excuses saying, well, he never asked me, which she was hiding, let's be honest here. And of course, she doesn't really give much of an answer as why she wouldn't engage in certain activities with him as the others. When the reality is, at the end of the day, the guys that she was willing to do very graphic things with, and you guys will find out some of them, it's because those guys, she was chasing their validation. She wanted their approval. She wanted them to want her and desire her. Well, this guy and guys like this, they just want that ring. And they know the nice guys, they don't have to do as much to get the wedding ring. And you're going to see just that. She got with this guy when she was 23, did her wild phase in college, and now she found her nice guy. And he's doing well for himself. And he can do better than her, in my opinion. So I'm going to go through this, guys, and you're going to see a lot more what I'm talking about here in this very common scenario. So it starts off, she says here, I have been together with a man I'll call Mark for 3 years now, and we just got engaged 2 months ago. I love this man so much, and it wasn't long after we started dating that I could see myself being with him forever, and I was so happy when he actually proposed. Number one, you knew who you were going after. You're going to see right here, he's the type of guy that a girl settles with. And number two, you weren't surprised when he proposed because you knew a guy like this would propose. Come on here. He's probably like, yes, I got that hot chick that in college for some reason wouldn't go out with me. By now, I feel like everything is falling apart, and I really would like some help and perspective, and it's a sensitive subject I don't really want to discuss with my family. There is no way she, of course, would not want to discuss the details, what you're going to hear with her family. Mark works in tech out on the East Coast where we live, and recently a guy from the Midwest, I'll call Ben, joined the company. Ben, it turns out, was a guy that I had hooked up with once back in college. Hold on here. Are you telling me that it just so happened that your hubby, or soon-to-be hubby, got a job on the East Coast for a tech company, probably in the Boston area because there's a lot of them, and this guy who she happened to hook up with in college from the Midwest, different part of the country, got a job there, and they happened to run into each other? How many dudes has she hooked up with that when they all spread their wings and went in different parts of the country actually ran into her fiance? Think about that one. Anyway, I had a bit of a wild phase in college. I came from a conservative family in the middle of nowhere, and when I joined a sorority, I kind of got into the party scene. Two stereotypes. Number one, comes from a conservative family. Some of the most wild girls I've ever been with or known come from very religious conservative families. They got let loose. And two, sorority. That should have been a red flag for that dude. I hooked up with some guys at parties and from Tinder and tried a few things I never thought I'd be into. Nothing too crazy, but not something I would have ever thought myself doing at an earlier age, but also since then. Oh, do tell, honey. So, as if there weren't enough guys on the college campus for the sorority, and you know there's a lot, Tinderella too. Honestly, while I had some fun, I also had some very mixed feelings about these days, which is why I wanted to firmly put them behind me when I moved away to join the real world. Yes, you are physically moving on and time is moving forward as it does, but still, your past is your past. And any guy that gets together with you and wants to one day make you his wife and be a mother of his kids has a right to know about your past, as would you about his past. And people don't take it too well when they find out that one has been lying. Well, apparently Ben, the dude from the Midwest who she hooked up with, figured out who I was when he saw a photo of me on Mark's desk. He didn't say anything at the time, but apparently at the holiday party, Ben got shit-faced and told Mark about me. Not only did he tell him about the hookup, but he also told him about the rest of what he knew of my history since he slurred, and he said he thought Mark should know. In truth, the story he said was a mixture of truth and lies, since Mark barely knew me at all. He may not have known you, but he probably knew people that knew you, and well, I think he had your number. I honestly cannot understand why he did such a thing, as we didn't part on a bad note. So I just understand why he would be so cruel as to tell such private gossip about me to my fiancée of all people. Well, it's very likely that Ben was in the bad boy type, the Chatter Tyrone types, whatever you want to call it, and they tend to be assholes. Or maybe he saw this guy, he's like, this guy probably doesn't know the full story here, and he ought to know. That's a possibility. That night, Mark came home, and he was simply furious. Well, who could blame him? He first gave the gist of the conversation and asked me if it was true. I started to tear up right away, shocker, and said it wasn't all true, but some parts were. Mark calmed down a bit, but asked me some specific questions. One was the number of guys I've been with, and I said it was over 30. Over 30. Well, 150 could be over 30. And remember the old rule, which is pretty accurate, whatever number a gal gives is very likely to be many more. The old joke is triple that number. Whatever number a guy gives, divided by 3. Because both are lying, but for different reasons. He seemed so shocked, but I point out that I never lied. He never asked me. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. No. You lied. You weren't upfront with him. And, as you're about to see, he wanted to explore certain things with you, honey, and you weren't willing to do that. But you were with a bunch of losers, and sometimes multiple losers all at the same time servicing you. He has a right to be upset. He also asked me if I had done anal, which I said I had. And let me guess, it always comes down to that. You ever notice that, guys, in these stories? Always comes down to that. At that point, he straight up called me a liar since we talked about trying it before, and I said I wasn't comfortable. Well, it can't be that comfortable, but regardless, she obviously did it and did it more than once. But that is the truth. I did it a few times in college, define a few, but it felt a bit degrading, it's not how I wanted to feel when I with a person that I loved. Guys, and maybe some of you guys can see where I'm coming from, what I'm about to say. Throughout my life, I've had a lot of relationships, and I've had girlfriends that I know by their words and their actions in the bedroom that were in love with me. And let me tell you, those girls that were absolutely in love with me, the sky was the limit to what I wanted. There are a couple things that were going to happen no, not happening, but you get my point. They loved me. And I had girlfriends in my more beta days when I was clueless that there was a limit to what I got. And then later on I found out that, guess what? They were much more adventurous than other guys. Why? Because they were in love with me and they saw me as an alpha later on in time when I got my shit together. Right here, she doesn't see this guy as an alpha. She doesn't care about his validation as much because he's easy. She knew when she met him, oh, this is marriage material. He's got a promising career. He's got resources. I'm the type that didn't give him the time of day in college, so I can do the bare minimum. That's what it is. At the end, Mark packed up some of his belongings and moved to a rental property that he owns that is currently unoccupied. He said he wasn't calling off the marriage right now, but needed space to think. So he's leaving her in a state of uncertainty. And women hate uncertainty. It makes them fucking crazy. I am so sad and lost. I was never dishonest or deceitful with Mark and have been completely loyal. Maybe you've been loyal in terms of not cheating, but you have been deceitful. You have been hiding your past. Because believe me, I don't think there are a whole lot of guys out there that want to get married to a gal that, putting high numbers aside, also engage in activities that she wouldn't give to him, who the future husband, father of the kids. Believe me, every guy would want their wife, as long as she's pretty and has a good body, to engage in lots of things. So this nonsense I don't want to do that in front of my husband, no, he'd love that, trust me. And of course, her with multiple guys at the same time. I wouldn't want that. He is the person I want to be with, and I'm fully committed to making our relationship to be a healthy one for the rest of our lives. But when he left, while he was polite, I could see so much disdain in his eyes. If the situation was reversed, think about it. How would she feel? I feel both sad, but also confused and a bit angry. You don't have a right to be angry. I tried so hard to be a good partner, and now I feel like he's throwing all that away and judging me for a phase of my life that happened before he even knew I existed. It matters, just how his past matters as well. How should I go forward? Above everything, I really don't want to lose Mark, but I just don't really know what to do or say at this point, and I'm even confused by my own feelings about the situation since I feel a sense of guilt, but don't really think I did anything wrong. Well, if in your gut you're feeling guilt, that means because you did something wrong. Yes, it's not that you didn't, that, yeah, he didn't ask you, oh, did you do this? Or did you have three somethings? Or have multiple dudes or 150 guys? Yeah, you didn't ask that question, but you knew darn well you engaged in a lot of activities that would probably upset him, amongst many other things, and you withheld it on purpose. That's your little Jiminy Cricket in there somewhere telling her that she did something wrong. What can she do? The only thing she can do is give him space. That's what she can do. Leave him the fuck alone. Say, okay, I'll give you space, and when you're ready to talk, we'll talk. And at that point, then, the best thing she can do is be an open book and respond to any questions he has, or say, okay, I've been truthful with you about my past. I'll tell you whatever you want, and be 100% truthful, even if it hurts. And that is the only way she has any possible chance of getting this guy to trust her again, because you can't have a relationship without trust. And then be willing to explore all the things that you want. Now, let me stop there and say, nobody should do anything that causes them physical harm, emotional, but you get my point, okay? Believe me, there isn't a married guy out there that has a pretty wife that would love to have her be a freak in the sheets. But a lot of them use the excuse that, well, I, did that when I was younger and I was wild and all, but I want to do it with my husband. I want him to judge me. Trust me, he'd love it. Ladies, your husband would love it. And that's all you can do. And one of two things are going to happen. Either he'll then move past this, and you better be fucking honest with him from that point on. Or two, it's not going to work. And in the future, you have to be direct and tell your guy, because he has a right to know. Just as a woman has a right to know. If he had some things in his past that he hid, and not necessarily in the bedroom department, but just other ththings, use your imagination, she has a right to know, has a right to know what she's getting into. Now, some comments here. One guy says here, oh, my best part, guys, you want to stick around. I'm going to read a bunch of comments that people had, and then you can hear her response to some of these. You're going to show again how she's really sticking to that narrative, well, he never asked, or more details about her graphic fun. One guy had a comment saying 3 partners a year from age 16 to 23 equals 27. That almost seems tame by today's standards. I wouldn't be surprised if Mark is more upset about the male-female 3-somethings, public BJs, and amateur PORN, or whatever terrible things Ben put into his head. So those are the things he was putting into his head, and it's very likely. Now she responds saying, yes, honestly, I felt like my behavior was not exactly that out of the ordinary in my circle. So, in other words, her friends were even crazier than her. Which, let's be honest, doesn't surprise me in today's world. The other girls in my friend group in college who were single were probably more active than me. But I haven't done anything too wild other than have a few threesomethings, which unfortunately Ben did know about. He was in one of them. The guy that told her fiancé this was in a threesomething with her, and she's admitting she was doing threesomethings. Believe me, that in itself would have guys running for the hills, saying, nope, it's been great knowing you, give me back the ring, I'm out of here. And yes, he did tell Mark about it, although he didn't dwell on it. You don't have to dwell on your fiancé, soon-to-be wife, engaging in threesomethings. But I have no idea what else Ben said exactly other than some nonsense that was straight up wrong. Really? Another guy says here, but I don't think he has a right to be angry about how many partners you had or whatever. And she says, the way he framed it, it was that he felt as though I acted dishonestly by acting like a different person and hiding an important part of me. But like I told him, and he admitted, I never lied about anything, and he had just never asked me about my S-word history before. I didn't talk about the past because I'm not comfortable talking about past partners, and he didn't ask either. She is really sticking to that thing. When I do these stories, guys, and a lot of gals get caught, they will hold on to their story until, like, literally evidence is presented, like visual evidence. And even now, eventually people are going to start blaming, like, AI technology. I didn't say that. That's Chat GPT that did that. Or you get my point. That's not me in the video. That is the AI technology that made it look like me doing that. That's going to be the new thing. She also says, but basically he said he was always put off by the hookup scene. He said that he only had SCX in relationships, nice guy, and didn't think I was the kind of girl he associated with that scene. He used the terms Tinder SLUT, which he first confronted me but later apologized for. But it's not like that's a lie. Right now, I'm very different from the person I was in my first years of college. It's not like I was pretending or putting off some kind of facade. So, although she's not saying, it sounds like a born-again virgin, if you will. Now, maybe I'm exaggerating, but yes, we've all done things in our past, and we've grown up or learned from mistakes, but they're still our past, and people who are going to engage in a marriage, life commitment, hopefully, they have a right to know. Another guy says here, I think the main reason he may feel so upset is the anal thing. He may feel like you tried it with other guys, so why wouldn't you try it with him? Now, here's her response. Yes, that is exactly what he said, but the truth is I never physically enjoyed the act and afterwards felt like I was being degrading. And yet, she still did it many times after. First time, okay. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard to figure out that if somebody's, you-know-what is going up your butt, that might be a little uncomfortable. But after that, if she was repeatedly engaging in those activities, that's something else. And clearly she did. Particularly with the male girl type of thing. The few times I did it was a combination of pressure from the guys and a feeling that it was something like a fantasy of sorts that only seemed hot in the moment. But like I said, I figured out that I don't really enjoy it, and it's not something I now feel comfortable doing with someone I love and consider my equal partner. Trust me, if she was head over heels for this guy, I guarantee you her butt would be puckered up and the lube would be right next door and they'd be getting down doing the Hershey Highway loving whatever he wanted. But no, this guy is the guy she settled for. And that's it for her responses to comments. I'm going to read a couple more guys say here. One guy says, okay, you might not have lied, but you sure didn't tell the whole truth. Right. When he asked about the backdoor action, you didn't offer the relevant information that you've done it before. That's probably because you didn't want him to know. It was a perfect time to bring up your past into the conversation. By not doing so, you lied by omission. Thank you. Also, that he had to hear about the S-word exploits of his fiancée with some random guy they started working with brings into question why you didn't let him know any of this before. If anyone is blindsided in this situation, it is your fiancé. SCX is something special to him, done between people in relationships. My bet is you knew this, and that's why you didn't open up about your history. Correct. And notice she mentioned that he only had the SCX with gals he was in relationships with. He was that guy. And you know what? Hey, who can blame him given what we're dealing with today? And he was turned off by the Tinder gals and stuff like that. He had no idea. And obviously, what we're connecting the dots here, had he known about her past, he wouldn't have gotten together with her. But she put on the big show, conservative family, all that, when we all know that usually the conservative gals are the most wild ones. And last one guy says, frankly, I can sort of understand where Mark is coming from. Imagine if some random girl came up to you and talked about how Mark had slept with her and many other girls in college. Meanwhile, a man you had assumed was very truthful and upfront about his past suddenly seems like a stranger because he was withholding a huge piece of his history, one which he actively avoided disclosing to you. To make matters worse, you find out this through a girl that he slept with, not him. I don't care if my fiance slept around in college. This is a woman writing this. Oh, this is a dude, my bad. That is her past, and that was her choice. However, if she actively kept it a secret from me, and I had to find out from one of her hookups, I'd feel betrayed and very skeptical of marriage with that person. Best course of action is to wait for him to cool off and process what he just found out. He'll still be very confused and angry, but you will have to talk to him about it and why you kept it a secret from him. Yeah, lady, don't lie to him. And unfortunately, you might have to earn back a lot of trust you lost. Could take a while, but if you love him and he chooses to keep going, you can prove that you really love him with time and effort. Flip a coin what's going to happen here, but the one thing about his argument is a little flawed is this, that he said, if you found out that he was a bunch of girls and you'd be upset too, the reality is that you all know darn well that women are attracted to guys that are very popular with a lot of women. In fact, the old social proof, that type of thing. And so if she found out that actually he hooked up with a lot of girls, although she may not like that, she'll also realize, see, I got the king. I landed myself the king. I got the prize, you know. But if she wanted a romance, and I use this often, if she wanted romance and cards and flowers, romantic gestures, and he didn't do that, and he doesn't do that with her, the girl he's going to marry, but found out in his past that he was Mr. Romance and poems and poetry and that type of bullshit with other girlfriends, then she'd be furious. But I get where he's coming from. So that, guys, there you go. So the moral of the whole story is, for all you relationship folks, men and women, you got to be upfront, you got to be honest. And the past will always come back to haunt you. It may take 50 years, but it'll come back. And your partner, man or woman, whatever one wants to be, has a right to know. And who knows what's going to happen to her. And I don't buy that second, he never asked. And I'm willing to bet you if he asked, she probably wouldn't have told him, knowing darn well the kind of guy he was. But it goes to show you, remember, guys, if you think that you're in your late 20s or 30s, and after all this time of your struggle, you're finally getting the pretty girl that you wanted, when the pretty girls or the girls you wanted weren't interested when you were younger, be aware they're probably settling. Especially, and it's very likely that while she's denying you certain explorations in the bedroom and activities, you're only getting missionary, even though you want to do all sorts of other positions, and she's not interested in BJs, and then you find out one day that she was definitely Miss BJ Queen of the Year for college. Be aware. So you need to do a little vetting and all that. And women do settle. End of story. So be careful. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.